Oh dear God, Mr. Pinchy, what's that look in your eyes? Here it is. No, Mr. Pinchy, have mercy. Think about all the things we've been through together. Okay, stop thinking about those. Think about the good times instead. Oh God. Mr. Pinchy, for the love of God. No, not another one of them. Poor innocent soul, fall into your wrath. Oh, there we go. And then make that drop it. And then just close you all out of there. Perfect. Right then, I can't say I've made too much progress, or have I? I may have changed some things ever so slightly. I may not have. I can't say I remember. However, boldly and bravely, I have been driving the temperatures up within the chamber to get it ready for showtime, really. Once I think these natural gas generators are at least 150 degrees in temperature, I should just be able to fire it up knowing that they'll start creating an atmosphere no problem. I have had some of my ice melt, and I do believe that more of it will in time, quite soon. And I don't know necessarily that I'll be able to outdo the pace of that, tide. I may actually just go and drain some of that water out. I have no clue right now. But speaking of things I have no clue about, I have not actually had a chance to play with this oil well. I'm under the impression that they vent natural gas at a rather high pressure, rather high temperature, so it's about the equivalent of trying to tame a hydrogen vent. So I figured to myself there's one of two ways I can go about this. First one is try to keep it cold, the other one is try to keep it from getting too hot. Subtle difference. I decided I'll just try to keep this one from getting too hot to start with. Now, to begin with, I've got a big metal box surrounding the insidey bits of this, and I do believe I have to leave at least some kind of an access with atmospheric suits so that the duplicants can get in and vent the natural gas from inside of the oil well. And I'm thinking I'm going to put that over here because, well, you would think that it was in the way when I started building, but it turned out that it actually provided just the perfect counterpoint that I needed for a few of the off-center pieces, you know, such as an entrance for the dupes. I haven't built that just yet, but I will. Now, I figure that since this thing has to accumulate some great deal of mass, it is a good idea, yes, to keep a hydro sensor about sensing when it gets above 500, maybe, perhaps. That seems decent, right? So that this tile here should almost always be relatively full of oil. And then this tile here will probably be full of natural gas. That should be okay, I think. As for cooling, hopefully that natural gas has a chance to just interact with the environment on large, because I haven't done too much in the way of work outside of temperature shift plates and lots of metal. Now, so long as it's about 130 in here, it's definitely 125 in here, which means that these steam turbines kick on and stop things from ever getting any hotter than that. And then I've gone with a gold thermal aqua tuner on it, because unlike the volcanoes, which get up to ludicrous temperatures, something that's easily marked as 500 Celsius at least is a point where I know for a fact that I can keep things under the 175 that would damage this golden thermal aqua tuner, at least cutting down ever so slightly on my steel cost, which I've gone and thrown right back into the trash by putting a whole bunch of steel reservoirs down here below the oil well right next to the liquid pump here. Now, my idea on it is relatively simple. Just give it a little bit of extra time to go ahead and let that oil exchange some of its temperatures with this plate up above before entering into a steel liquid shutoff with its switch right next to it, so that I can make sure that these reservoirs stay as full as I want them to until I'm ready to have some oil sent to me. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. As for these 6 reservoirs up top, it is overkill, but I figure that I might as well have a water battery behind it. It uses water at 1/10 the rate of a pipe, which is a good enough reason to use insulated ceramic for inside of the chamber to make sure that that water never boils, because it has to be clean, fresh, pure water. It can be hot. It can even be germy, but it can't be green. Now let's see here. What else is... Fine, sweep. Oh, okay, well, excellent. Let's go ahead and finish sealing off the inside of this chamber, I do believe, then. Now, these batteries will be wet when I start, and I do have to drill a hole back into the top to get back in there for putting water in there so that it can boil an atmosphere. But just like, just like this one, it will eventually boil dry. Eventually. Someday. Until then, I'll have to go and feed it a little bit of extra power, just to keep it going. However, that problem solved down here, because when I was building, I just randomly placed this power transformer in this location right here, and stuck just a little bit of wire out into the wall here, so I went ahead and connected that into a straight line over onto here, and just thanked the gods and said, yes, this is definitely of their inspiration for them to have aligned things like this for me. So it means that it can piggyback power off of the iron volcano until it gets itself up to steam. And everything within the chamber, even though it's got a few things in there that it's paying for, it's all under the load of one of these conductive wires. So while it's not the skinny, worthless wires here, I absolutely love these conductive wires because they are so useful. They just have a 2K limit, that's all. Ah, right. What's up with the ladders? I don't know if it's a bug or if it's necessarily intended, but I noticed that you can't place things like, what's it called? Mesh tiles over the top of a temperature shift plate to use as a background unless you place a ladder first. And I assume that in places without like an atmosphere, like up in the proper void of space, up in the beyond up there, where I'm afraid to even look for fear of triggering meteor showers, that you would probably need to put a back wall behind this mesh tile to stop your liquids and gases from being lost into the void of space. So when goofing around, I realized that all you had to do was place a ladder first, and then you could go ahead and push your mesh tiles right along just like that, and then it'll replace the ladder but allow the back wall to stay. That way I can have nice, clean looking back walls, you know, because it's Is it okay to say that it's just OCD? Ah, right. All of the various, gold volcanoes. Redoing them with the, different atmosphere is good. And it does take a real long time to boil up a bottle of ethanol. Because the, batteries here, it looks to me like the ethanol is the exact same temperature as the petroleum and the metal tile beneath it. But down here, this bottle, hoo boy, is it ever taken its time getting warm. But of course it will get warm, just like up here. This beautiful bluish, just... oh my god, that is just beautiful looking. Just so very, very beautiful looking, at least in my eyes. Just everything crammed together tightly, going and putting just as much as I can in one spot. Even though it's not much, it feels like much to me. And then the subtle differences. Take for example over on this one. Because the floor that I had dictated that would appear was precisely one block below everything else, I completely did away with the battery bank layer and just added one more layer and then also put a metal tiles of gold. Just to be silly, since it's a gold volcano, it kinda makes sense that it should be erupting and solidifying right next to even more in the way of gold. And then of course, I've been doing my best to flood this chamber up here. I think I can get it all the way up to 20 kilograms for the hydrogen atmosphere. And yes, what's inside of the tanks, or going to be inside of the tanks once I'm done venting them down, just for the purpose of being able to run the electrolyzer without it backlogging on hydrogen here. Because these designs are great, I suppose. Even my rendition of these designs, I suppose, is kind of great. Hoo boy, when I kicked it into full overdrive, was it ever powerful? It was actually creating 20 kilos of pressure in the areas and making walls and clouds of O2 on its way out. But yes, I have overdone this all to a significant degree, and I am still running it up. God, I needed to drain out some of that extra water. And this, of course, is the natural gas storage. I decided to be funny. A little bit of petroleum topped with a little bit of polluted water. I read once that it was seemingly an idyllic seeming combination, and upon looking at it visually, I understand precisely why. It is a glorious golden combination to go with my golden batteries. It makes them almost underwater, but in an atmosphere far too thin to drown out their circuits. It makes me wonder, are my little guys actually in a minimalistic I mean, not minimalistic atmosphere, but minimalistic gravity? I have thrown them all the way from build limit down into the oil biome with no broken legs before, and I kind of figured that I'd be burying him after that experiment, but no, he survived. Well, I'll leave that alone. Perhaps my madness is manifest only in minor ways so far.